Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today what I want to talk about is 5 ways to help your dog during a seizure. My name is Mandy and I'm here to support the Epi Dog owner. So stick around and I'm going to talk about the 5 ways that you can help your dog while he or she is seizing. So tip number 1 is to remain calm and create a calm environment. So tip number 1 is all about being calm. Now this is easier said than done. If you are new to canine epilepsy, your dog maybe has just been diagnosed, or you have just witnessed your first or second seizure of your dog, I want you to know that number 1, it is incredibly scary. And so a lot of empathy that you are going through that. I remember when Ruby had her first seizure, or at least the first one that I observed, and it was incredibly scary. So just know that what I'm saying might sound right now easier said than done. I will say though, after almost 4 years now, I feel like a pro. When she starts seizing, you just get used to going into a very calm mode, because what you're going to realize is the calmer you are and the more you just kind of spring into action doing the different things that your dog is going to need as they're having a seizure, it's just going to benefit them during the seizure and helping them come out of it. So by creating not only a calm environment, but by you staying calm yourself, is very, very beneficial. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that I do that could potentially help your dog as well. Now, when I'm talking about these 5 things, this video is probably a little bit more specific to the grand mal seizure. So when your dog is on its side, paddling, muscles are tensed, a lot of foaming, maybe your dog is unconscious, usually they are. So these tips are definitely for the grand mal seizure, which is the type of seizure that my dog experiences, but some of them could be beneficial for other types as well. So I'll let you kind of pick and choose, and you're going to learn what works for your dog. So some examples of remaining calm and creating a calm environment is I stop all talking. I don't talk to my dog while she's having a seizure. Now, some people say that by talking quietly to their dogs, they do believe that helps. So that's something you're going to have to figure out. But one of the strategies I've implemented is all talking stops, all noises from people and things stop. So if it's just me, I don't talk to Ruby while she's seizing. If there's any other people that happen to be around, I tell them to stop talking. Usually if it's a situation where somebody is there that has never experienced that seizure before, or it's new to them, they may be bombarding you with questions as it's happening, because they're panicking a little bit. So even just giving them the command to stop talking is very appropriate, and I've done it during that time. But I think sometimes people just need to be told what you need them to do during that time. So all noise goes down, including voices. TV goes off. So for TV, that's not only the noise, but it's also the lights of the TV. You want that to be ended. Music gets shut off. I make sure lights get dimmed. So if I have brighter lights on in the room, I will shut them off and maybe just turn on one lamp in the corner, just to have a very kind of a calmer, darker room that you can still see enough to help, but bright lights are not going to be interfering with your dog trying to get through the seizure and then coming out of the seizure. I'm just thinking of if that's pretty much what I do as far as creating the calm environment. Obviously, a lot of these things like turning off a TV and turning off music or dimming lights, all of these things that I'm going to be talking about today are more helpful if you have somebody else who's helping you during that seizure situation. But if you don't, if it's you and your dog, you can do it. I do it. I don't have somebody else who's here who is helping me when these situations arise. So I do it all on my own. You're going to get really good at it, and it will just become second nature. You won't even have to think about it. You will just go into what I call seizure mode or mission mode, where you just start kind of ticking through the different things that you know are going to be helpful. So the second tip that you can help is also, I consider it a help to yourself, because your dog needs you during this time. So the last thing that you want to do is get injured. And one thing that I often see owners talk about is they will hold their dog during the seizure. Now, I have a large dog, so I don't know if there's a difference between large dogs and small dogs, but I don't hold Ruby. I really don't even touch her during that seizure. And the biggest thing is keep your hands away from their mouth. Keep any of your body, your arms, your hands away from their mouth. It's very common for an owner to get bit by their dog, that the jaw just locks down on them during a seizure, and your dog is probably completely unconscious and not even realizing that they're biting you. So you could have the nicest, sweetest dog in the world, which I do, and during a seizure, or if you think they're out of it but they're not out of it yet, they could potentially bite you. So bites to owners is not uncommon for dogs with epilepsy. So a little story that I have on this is, when I was early on just learning about this, Ruby had just been diagnosed, and we went through a particularly hard night of her having a couple of seizures, and I thought she was out of it, and I went to go to pet her, and she growled and snapped at me. And so luckily I was quick enough to get away from that. She is not a dog. She's never bit me before. She's not a dog to be aggressive at all. But I'm sharing this story to tell you that it could happen, and it would not be anyone's fault. So just as the owner, just know to stay away from that a bite is a potential thing that could happen during or right as they're coming out of that seizure. And so you just want to protect yourself and not get injured, because having a dog who's seizing and then an owner who is bleeding and needs medical intervention, it's just going to be a really bad situation really quick. So protect yourself too during a seizure. Make sure you don't get hurt. So keeping your hands and arms and any body parts away from their mouth is really going to be the best way. The third way to help your dog during a seizure is to really look at what's around them, and is there anything that could potentially hurt them as they're seizing. So one of our jobs is to keep them safe during that seizure episode. So some of the things that I look for, so Ruby, when she is having a grand mal seizure, it's her body is really moving. She's on her side, she's paddling. She gets extremely rigid, and so her head can be hitting anything behind it or under it. So I immediately remove any furniture that might be around her. If it's stools, any lamps, floor lamps, anything that she could potentially be bumping into that would fall over on her and possibly injure her. So anything like that gets moved away from her. I almost try to kind of create a perimeter of just a safe area that she can kind of move around and do what she needs to during her seizure, but there's nothing in that perimeter that can hurt her. And even though I'm not touching her during the seizure, I'm right there. I'm quietly monitoring, doing these other things like moving things out of the way to make sure she doesn't get hurt. The other thing I look for are corners. So a corner of a cupboard, a corner of a wall, because her head is jerking back and forth so aggressively, that corner could do some serious damage if her head was to hit it. So corners, hardwood floors, if they bang their head into the floor during the seizure. What I have gotten used to doing is I make sure that I keep folded up towels, rugs, pillows, blankets that are easy to kind of fold just around, that I could easily grab one of those things and just put it in between. So I may grab a pillow, and if her head is here, I can put this in between her head and the corner of the wall to make sure that she's hitting something soft and not the corner or even the hard wall itself. Sliding a rug or a folded up towel or a blanket underneath her head and a hardwood floor, just to have something that's gonna take some of that very aggressive head thrashing that happens, so she doesn't get any sort of additional injuries during that seizure. I also look to make sure that she's not close to any stairs that are going down, that she could accidentally stumble down. So I have before in my previous home that did have a stairs that would go down, I did keep a pretty heavy Rubbermaid container that was filled up with heavy stuff like books and stuff that I knew that I could just put it in front of the stairs so she wouldn't be able to just tumble down the stairs. There would be something there that would be blocking her, and of course I would be there too to be able to be in the way of her falling down the stairs or put additional weight on top of that Rubbermaid big container in front of the stairs that she wouldn't be able to push it. So it's a lot of thinking about that. And of course, if you're new to this probably sounds really overwhelming. Like, how can I do all of these things while my dog is seizing? But like I said, you will get so good at it. You'll get confident. You will know exactly what to do, and you'll be looking and doing these things without even thinking about them. The fourth thing that you can do to help your dog while your dog is seizing is, if you have another dog or dogs in the home, to remove those dogs from the room that your seizing dog is in, or take them outside, or put them in the garage, whatever you need to do. But what a lot of owners don't realize is even dogs that live within the same home, that get along very well, that grew up together and are best friends and are normally playing and happy together, a dog can attack another seizing dog even if they know that dog very well. There's something about that energy, the seizing energy, and the other dog, I haven't looked into it enough to know why that could be, or if we even know why that would be, if it's the energy, if it's the motion, if they get scared. But that dog that even knows your seizing dog very well can attack the seizing dog. So again, what we're doing is we're trying to think of anything that could injure or hurt our animal that is seizing in the moment, and what can we do to prevent any of these things from happening. So for sure, you want to remove that dog, any other dogs from the area, from the room, and from, if you can, even from the house, because once your dog comes out of that seizure, they are still going to be loopy and, you know, walking around and bumping into other things, and you don't want to have to also manage another dog. You want to be able to put 100% of your attention and focus on the dog that needs you during that time, which is the dog that is seizing. And my fifth tip is to time it. So you are going to want to make sure that you have a seizure journal, and that you are keeping track of data, like the frequency, when seizures are happening, how long they happen for. So timing that seizure is very important. So one of the things that I do when Ruby starts to have a seizure is I start counting the seconds. And I just do it very quietly, almost under my breath. And one of the things that I have found is that I think it almost helps calm me during it, just because it's this very kind of calm, repetitive thing that I'm doing as I'm doing all of these other things. So figure out the way that you're going to time it. Now, Ruby's seizures now tend to be 90 seconds or less. So counting is doable. But if you have a dog that seizes longer than that, what you're going to want to do is have another way that you are going to time it. So if that's, make sure that you have a clock, you know, in every room, so you can quickly glance at that clock when that seizure starts, and then just remember to glance again when it ends. My recommendation too is have notebooks around where you can just jot it down very quickly, because it's so easy to forget. As soon as I can, I have a notes section in my iPhone that then I jot down how long that seizure went, just because I know if I don't do it right away, within an hour or two, I'm going to forget. So just have your way, your strategy that's going to work for you to remember how long. So those are the 5 ways: remaining calm and creating a calm environment, keeping your hands away from your dog's mouth, because you don't want to have an injury. You don't want to have to be dealing with your own injury as you need to be helping your dog with epilepsy who is having a seizure. Keeping them safe, so looking around the perimeter of them. I kind of have this bubble around Ruby where I make sure all furniture is moved away, any hard corners are covered, towels are under her head. Towels can also become very helpful too. You might want to have them in the different rooms. If your dog urinates or defecates during a seizure, just having that towel there. Some owners will say they'll slip a towel right underneath the back end of their dog if they know their dog urinates or might defecate during that seizure. So Ruby doesn't do that, but I read that tip from somebody else, and I thought that was a really great tip to have, just help with the cleanup part afterwards. 4 was remove any other dogs, ideally to either outside or the garage, so your 100% focus can be on your dog and you're not risking an injury of your dog, of a dog, even if it knows your dog very well and they grew up together and they're friends, attacking your dog during a seizure, which happens more often than people realize. And then 5, time it, making sure that you are in some way timing how long that seizure is occurring, so you can document it in your seizure journal. And that's very important information that your veterinarian needs to know. So I do have a bonus tip of how you can help your seizing dog. I'm going to do a video specifically on this topic, but the bonus, one extra thing that I do for Ruby, so I did say that I don't touch her, but that's not totally true. I don't touch her and like I'm petting her or anything like that. One thing I run for and come back with is a ice pack. So there's a lot of research out there that shows that placing an ice pack on your dog's, their middle of their back, and holding it there just during the seizure, that it helps either stop the seizure or at least reduce the amount of time that your dog is seizing. So there's a lot of science that goes into that. I'm not going to talk about that in this video today. I will do a video on that in the future that gets more into why they believe and why the research is that they think that that is a beneficial method to do. But that's just a little bonus tip. You could definitely Google it and research it. I think it's great whenever we can have these strategies that don't involve giving our dog additional medication, but emergency meds are a part of this as well. And so I'm going to also do a video about having an emergency med protocol ready to go. But those are my 5 tips today. I hope this was helpful. These were things that just, over time I learned. So I'm hoping that I'm just giving it all to you in this video, that you don't have to have the big learning curve that I did over the last couple years. And just know that you will get very good at remaining calm. It's never easy to watch your dog having a seizure, especially a grand mal seizure. I really don't enjoy it at all. However, I will say I have gotten extremely good as far as my reaction during the time that she is having a seizure. So I know you can do it too. The fact that you're here and learning is awesome. And that's all we can do is just continue to learn as much as we can so we can help our Epi dog. So thank you for being here with me today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.